Welcome back to the Road to National series. In today's episode, I'm going to take you through a dynamic effort lower workout. So this is the first week in my 3-week wave of dynamics. For this 3-week wave, my variation is just regular deadlifts. And this week I have 75% of my 1 rep max for 3 sets of 5. That 75% is bar weight plus band tension. So these moved fantastically. They moved way faster than any of my dynamic effort deadlifts previously. That could just indicate that my max is now higher than the percentage. I've been going off 270 kilos, which was my max in competition last year. However, I'm probably a bit stronger than that. So that's a great thing. And also I was very happy with the way I was able to slam all the way to lockout. I used to, if you look back earlier on in this series when doing dynamic effort deadlifts, I'd sort of pull to the top of my thighs, which is where my sticky point is, and then have to do like a second mini pull for the top 2 inches because that's where I was too weak to go all the way up to lockout. However, I'm now able to make the deadlifts one snappy fast motion, so I was really happy with those. Then moving on to the accessories, I had belt squats and I've got a new belt. So my old belt used to be more like a traditional dip belt and it would have like chains and buckles and carabiners and they would dig into my thighs and basically rub the skin off, and that is what restricted the weight I could use. So today with my new belt, it's so much more comfortable. It's all material. So I was able to push the weight. The heaviest I've done before this is 200 kilos. So I did 250 kilos here for 2 sets of 8, which I was very happy with. So my right knee was feeling a tiny bit precarious, not really in pain, but I was aware of it. It was giving me some feedback. It felt a little stiff. If you don't know, I've worked through a right knee injury for the past couple of years, but the fact that I was able to do those 250 kilo belt squats, I was so happy with, and I really think that that is going to be a massive thing for driving up my squat and deadlift. I haven't had like a very heavy leg pushing accessory before, so I've done things like elevated heel squats, but I actually use less weight on that. It targets the quads way more, but I was only squatting like just over 100 kilos, way less than my squat max of 220 kilos. However, with the belt squats, it's a great substitution for something like a leg press where you can really overload the weight. So I'm excited to progress up with that. I want to go and try and push to like 300 kilo belt squats soon, and then there is lots of room on the bar, and with my calibrated plates I could push all the way up into the 300s and maybe up to like 400 kilos in the future, but that is way down the line. That's getting a bit ahead of myself there, but I really think that would obviously translate over into the squat in particular very well. So the next accessory here is hamstring curls, single leg standing hamstring curls, the standard version that I do because I'm basically doing it. The machine is actually just meant to be a quad extension machine. You can do this on any quad extension machine. If you have one in the gym and they don't have a hamstring curl machine for whatever reason, or the hamstring curl machine isn't available and you're wanting to do them, you can do curls like this on a quad extension machine. So here I did 2 sets of 12 at 80 pounds per leg. Now this is a massive PR as well. I think the most amount of reps I've ever done at 80 pounds was like 8 reps. I managed to do 6 reps, 2 sets of 6 at 90 pounds not too long ago, which was a huge PR because I literally used to not be able to move 90 pounds at all that long ago. I mean, like a year ago, my working weight was 40 pounds for sets of like 12. So I've literally doubled the weight here with 80 pounds of sets of 12. I was so happy with this. I was happy when I hit 80 pounds for sets of 8, to be honest. So the hamstring strength has come along a lot. So yeah, very happy with those. Then moving on to the next accessory here, it is calf raises. I normally do calf raises off an elevated block, but because this was so heavy, I just decided to leave the weight on from the belt squats at 250 kilos here. This is the heaviest I've ever calf raised. I have done like 200 kilo calf raises before, but this is by far the heaviest. I had a bit of trouble re-racking because of how heavy it was there. That was genuinely stressful. I was like, I'm not exactly sure how I can get out of this. So I had to adjust the chain for the second set, and then it wasn't a problem. It was just with how low the chain hangs down. These felt really good, actually. The calves felt very strong, and I felt like sometimes when you go really heavy on calf raises, you can't like get an amazing squeeze. You don't get a pump the same as with lighter weight. So I was like, oh, maybe I've just ego lifted here and the calves weren't really training and I was just finding some other way to get the weight up. But my calves did have a lot of DOMs and muscle soreness in the days after this. So I do think that the calves were obviously doing work if that is the case. So I was happy with those. Then moving on to the next accessory here, it is roller hip adductions. So I was trying to go as deep as possible, and when I've gone to this step before, I've only been able to get like sets of 4 or 5, but here I managed to get 2 sets of 7, so 1 on each side. So although this looks like a single leg variation, if you don't know, both adductors are actually working on each side. Like you're squeezing in with both legs, it just happens to be that one leg is the roller, and I change which leg has the roller for the sake of making sure that both sides are trained completely evenly. But to be honest, both adductors are hit on both sides. These were very challenging, particularly those 7th reps on the first side, but particularly on the second side. Like it was so hard to squeeze in, and my adductors have been sore. I mean, they're still sore at the time of recording this 2 days later. To be fair, that is when DOMs usually peak, but they've been very sore. They've actually affected like when I've been trying to drive a car. It's been awkward to hold my leg in place to change gears and stuff because the adductors have been so sore from doing this. So these definitely were a PR for me, being able to do 7 reps at full depth. I was very happy with those. The session as a whole, I've hit like so many PRs. It's the first week back since my deload week, so to be fair, I am a bit more primed than further weeks in my block of training, but I was very happy in general with this week's training. And then to end off, I did reverse hypers. So these are just standard 2 sets of 15 at 150 kilos. That is my standard weight. They surprisingly enough have been feeling a bit heavier recently. A while ago when I used to do this weight on reverse hypers, it felt easier if anything. I don't know if it's because I'm actually going a bit higher and trying to control the weight a bit more, but these have been feeling quite challenging even though I've been maintaining the weight. And the main reason I do these is, unlike other accessories, it's just for GPP, general physical preparedness and work capacity for the posterior chain. So glutes, hamstrings, and particularly sort of lower back and even upper back. That is your power base for powerlifting. Like most people fail squats by caving forward. That could be because of a weak posterior chain. Most people fail deadlifts because they lose back integrity, and again they sort of round their back and cave forward. So just building up the posterior chain is essential for powerlifting, and that's what I'm doing here with the reverse hypers. So that is it for today's video. I hope you did in fact enjoy the video. If you did, drop it a like, drop it a comment, subscribe, click the bell, all of that wonderful stuff. Thanks for watching to the end of the video, and I hope that you have a great day.